Hi, you're watching Investor Insights, back in Sydney for the time being, and just an arm's away from 2014. I'd just like to extend best wishes for the new year to everyone, and just to give you a little bit of food for thought. I was thinking about this on the drive back, and that is Europe. And most people would not have heard anything coming out of that continent in the past 9 or 10 months. And one of my favorite people to talk about, the ECB President Mario Draghi, or who I affectionately call Super Mario, has done the best job of all central bankers across the globe in the past probably 50 years. Because through his famous speech about 18 months ago, in July last year, when everything was looking very vulnerable, the euro cross to the US dollar was at $1.19, and things looked like it was going to fall through the floor, and looking like maybe the Eurozone might break up, and you were looking at sovereign debt skyrocketing. His one speech where he said the famous line where he will do everything in his power as ECB president to prevent the collapse of the Eurozone and the common currency has since sparked basically bond rates to almost new lows. It's sparked stock market rallies to 5-6 year highs, and there's an eerie feeling of confidence and happiness, and a lot of high-fiving and backslapping amongst the investment community over in that continent. But essentially, what has changed? And what's changed is that the fundamental situation beneath the surface is actually worse, because essentially the gauge into how well an economy, or in this case a common currency, the total economy in Europe, is actually far worse than it was 18 months ago. Sure, look, nominal GDP numbers may have improved, and the government debt, the bond yields have dropped, so the governments have been able to borrow a crapload more money from investors, but essentially things are much worse, because, as I said, the main gauge into an economy is the employment situation, and currently the unemployment situation, or the stated unemployment situation in Europe, is over 12%. When you look at the real rate of unemployment, it's probably closer to double that. So when you're looking at 1 in 4 people being unemployed, things are looking grim. But what the people can't spend, the government will spend for them instead. And they can leave that debt for their children or the next administration to take care of, because everything is for the now, and we'll worry about things down the road. And down the road, the bubble bursting event will be inflation. But anyway, for the time being, Super Mario, as I said through his speech, has managed to fool the market into believing that he will do everything in his power to save the euro and the Eurozone from collapsing. Well, if one thinks about what I just said, the ECB doesn't really have the tools that the Fed has to help support the economy, or to help artificially stimulate the economy. For one, the ECB just can't print money like the Fed can. The ECB has implemented a whole bunch of stabilizing and what's the word, emergency measures that have got all these unbelievable acronyms that are going to be to great detriment to people with speech impediments, such as the ESM, the ESFS, the OMT. All those emergency measures to help out the banks and the sovereign debt market over there are in place. But not 1 cent has been spent since their inception, and nothing has been enacted since their inception, because Super Mario has been able to fool the market into believing that everything should be okay because he said so, and the market has just jumped on board and lapped up all these new debt issuance by all these countries, so that the government are able to spend that money to prop up the GDP and make the whole world believe that Europe is a sound place to invest in and to live in. Well, ask anybody on the streets out there how or what it feels like to live in Europe, in Spain, where youth unemployment is close to 60%, or in Greece, where the unemployment situation is closer to 30%, and they will tell you a totally different story to what Mario Draghi and the investment community are telling you that Europe is really like. But essentially, the main thing that's going to bring this whole thing, this whole house of cards to an end, will be inflation. And the statisticians and the various government agencies over there, and in America and in Australia even, have done a fantastic job in clamping down on inflation by use of hedonics and various sort of statistical manipulations. As I said, they've clamped it down, and so people believe that inflation is running, below 2% or below 1%, or in America 0.5% even. But essentially, it's not so much the investment community, it is going to be the people out there that would force the government or the ECB or the Fed into becoming more hawkish, because they will just stop spending, because everything will just become too expensive to buy. And then you're going to have a rout. And that rout is going to be precipitous, it's going to be quick, and it's going to be very painful. And 2008 is going to look like a walk in the park. That's not just Europe, that's the Fed. But that's a topic of another discussion as of tomorrow. So when fundamentals catch up with economies, when the free market dictates to the central bankers what has to be done, you are going to see rates even higher than they were during the European crisis, and you're going to see this euro get broken in half. The whole Eurozone concept is a total flawed concept. You cannot have 17 or whatever number that it is, different central bankers, all these different states with different monetary policy, with different fiscal policies, and yet one central bank who have to set the rates and set the currency for all these different states. But as I said, this is going to happen sooner than later, and if you're very heavily invested in European stocks and European bonds, sovereign bonds, good luck to you. But it's New Year's Eve, I'm going to keep this short. I wish everybody the best for 2014, and I've just come from a wedding in Melbourne of my cousin Eric and his new wife Darby. I wish them absolutely all the best for their future life together, and I hope to see you all in 2014.